TJ, how you doing?
How you doing, Andy? I'm doing well. Thanks for
Good.
having me.
Good. No problem at all. Thank you very much for joining us.
Cool. So like Andy said, my name is TJ Hyland. I am the head of partnerships responsible for the US region at Payoneer. So partnerships is one of those buzzwords, but what do I do? I'm working to create relationships with other businesses like GEE and Pearl at First Choice and some other ones we'll touch on to create and foster an ecosystem to make selling online, especially in this case, selling cross-border, easier. So first I'll take you a little bit through Payoneer, then the opportunity, and then a little bit deeper into what we do and how it works. So a little bit about Payoneer. So we've been around for about 15 years now. We have over 4 million customers globally. Our mission really is to go beyond. So previous to the last couple of years, we were only in the payments world. We were generally known for businesses that were selling cross-border and providing them with a solution to help repatriate their earnings. But over the last couple of years, we've really expanded that to do more and to go beyond and to really be a resource for sellers and for businesses globally to really understand the true opportunity of selling cross-border. So a little bit more about Payoneer. We have about 1,500 employees in 17 locations. Our headquarters are in New York, but we also have a large presence in Tel Aviv, in Israel, and then in Hong Kong. So we are truly a global company. So no matter where you're calling in or listening in from today, most likely we have local teams on the ground that are able to support you in your journey. And who are we working with? So there are a couple sides or a couple business units, I should say, to Payoneer. Previous, what we really focused on was the payouts. So we work with a lot of the vacation rentals and the freelancer world and the gig economy to help those staff members that are in Central and Eastern Europe and Southeast Asia get paid easier, faster, smoother. And we also work with a lot of the marketplaces. So like Walmart, like Amazon, and a lot of the ones in Europe, like in France is Cdiscount and Newegg and stuff like that. So Payoneer is really in a unique position where we're able to sit between the sellers and the marketplaces and have relationships with both. And it really plays to an advantage for the seller because we're able to customize and cater to their needs and also bend without breaking in terms of what the marketplaces need to. So a little bit about the international opportunity, what it looks like. So what we say is right now we're really in the midst of the fourth industrial revolution. So this one is generally driven on technology and thus opportunity. And basically going beyond is Payoneer's slogan, but what that means is going beyond borders too. So borders come down. It doesn't matter what country you're in. It doesn't matter where you're located or what your skills are. You can help do part of a job. And now we say the West meets the East. In terms of e-commerce, in terms of marketplace selling, we know that a lot of the solutions and a lot of the production is coming out of China and out of Asia. So making it easier for Western businesses, whether that's in Europe or whether that's in the US or the rest of North America, have an easier way to do trade with China and make those payments easier. And with that comes the developing world meeting the emerging world and sort of flattening the curve. I know we've heard that term quite a bit over the last couple of days, but making it a level playing field for everyone to enable small businesses to have the same capabilities and the same access as large multi-million-dollar businesses, Forbes 500 businesses. And what we're doing that in a variety of ways, and I'm going to touch on that. But before we get there, we probably want to talk about why you would sell internationally. So basically opening up yourself to more opportunities. A lot of these marketplaces, if they are international, such as Amazon, provide support in these other regions. And even if they don't, if they're just a marketplace based in France or in the UK, they're going to have their own support function. They are looking for sellers to get onto their system. And then also cross-border retail is growing, and I'll show you some statistics on that. But if we look currently at what the outlook of the US marketplace looks like, everyone here could be selling on all these marketplaces, but it's probably, 80 to 90% of your businesses are either Amazon, eBay, or Walmart. Google Shopping's growing a lot. Target's really getting into the mix. It takes a certain type of product, certain type of solution to sell with Wish. But I bet most of us are selling on Amazon, and that really helps in this situation when expanding internationally, because if you're familiar with Amazon US, their international solutions in terms of how the system works are not that different. So if we look at the cross-border growth in e-commerce, so we're looking to cross almost $3.5 trillion this year in volume. So not really sure how the last couple of weeks in terms of coronavirus are going to affect that. If you ask me, even if there are shutdowns of certain non-essential categories, the essential categories are booming online, and it's not just a US thing, it's a global thing. So perhaps that number will actually be larger. And this is overall cross-border sellers. So this is people selling on their own websites, on marketplaces, on the largest brands all the way down to the mom and pop shops with their own product. But then this chart is actually one of my favorite ones because it looks deeper into the marketplace sellers versus the non-marketplace sellers. And we can see that the marketplace seller or the sellers and the volumes that are selling on marketplaces are growing faster and at a pretty great rate compared to the direct to merchant. So especially when expanding to a new market, especially when expanding to something you're not fully familiar with, leveraging the infrastructure that a marketplace has set up to identify the demand and identify that you have a need here is an easy way to do it. If you're a European business and looking to sell into the US, yes, it might be great, but you're not going to be able to generate the traffic that an Amazon or a Walmart can generate, based or just off your own site. So leverage the marketplace to help you enter these new markets. And we talk about why go multi-channel, why sell on multiple marketplaces. And Pearl touched on it, is you really have to diversify, because in the situation like we're in today, where Amazon is restricting some items to be shipped to FBA, even if you had an alternative solution to ship via FBM, you don't necessarily want all your eggs in one basket. And even you don't necessarily want all your eggs in the Amazon basket. So expanding to different marketplaces, every marketplace has a different niche. If there's a couple in Germany, I know that are really big on clothing, and a lot of technology specific marketplaces too. So depending on what you do, and we'll talk about takeaways, but you really have to do your research. And because, when you are selling on more than 2 marketplaces, the number in which your annual revenues grow is pretty significant. So not only is it diversifying to protect your business, to protect your brand, it also gives you the opportunity to generate more and more revenues. So if we talk about what Payoneer does and how we really fit into the picture, and I've touched on it before, we have relationships with a lot of these marketplaces. So whether you are based in Europe and you want to sell in other marketplaces in Europe, or you want to sell into the US, whether you're in Southeast Asia or you want to sell into Southeast Asia or in Australia, we can help either get you set up or make you the introduction to sell there. Basically, like I said, flattening everything so that anybody that wants to sell anywhere can make that pretty much possible. And one of the real reasons why we want to look outside of Amazon US, and it's pretty significant, the number of sellers that are selling in the US. It's a very, very competitive market. And I don't think I'm saying that, I don't think that's the first time you guys are hearing that. If we look at the UK, if we look at the rest of Europe, if you put the rest of Europe all together, there's actually a larger opportunity than just the US in terms of number of people there to buy your items. But if we look at the number of sellers, each marketplace, each country is significantly less than the US. Obviously, the population is less too, and thus demand less, but you still have a greater opportunity to get the buy box or to pay less on your PPC or whatever it may be. But if we look at Amazon, if we leverage where they are already set up, it's really expansive. So you have the opportunity to sell truly globally under the Amazon marketplace. So depending on where you're selling, opening up a new marketplace, it could be relatively easy. I know a lot of sellers are selling in the US, whether you're US based selling in the US, whether you're global selling into the US. I know everyone kind of thinks that that's what you need to do, which I would agree with in terms of demand, but there is also the opportunity to do more within the US or within North America, I should say. So, this is a really unique program, which has not really been publicized too much, but it is a exciting opportunity for sellers if you are invited to it. And it's called the North American Remote Fulfillment, sometimes shortened to NARF. And how it works is you would still keep your current setup where you have your inventory in an FBA solution, or if you are using a 3PL, you are able to use your inventory that is with Amazon and then list on the marketplaces within Canada and Amazon Mexico. So, and if someone in Canada or someone in Mexico buys something from you, it is fulfilled from your US inventory. Now, why is that advantageous? Why would you want to do that? Instead of going up and shipping inventory to Mexico where you're not even sure of the demand, if you're shipping inventory to Canada and you're unsure if anyone's going to be interested in your product, even with all the research you can do, this is an easy way to keep your inventory in the US. That inventory could be put towards sales that are made on Amazon.com, but at the same time is available for Amazon Canada and Amazon Mexico. Now, if you go and sell for 2-3 months and you see that you are seeing a large number of sales on Amazon Canada over a specific SKU, then you can say, okay, cool, maybe I should send some inventory up there to a FBA warehouse in Canada, so that you're able to fulfill in quicker turnarounds than just 3 to 5 days, because I think it is a little bit longer even if you are a Prime member. And then we talk about opportunities outside of Amazon. So if we look at the Latin American opportunity, it's really a region in which Amazon has not touched yet. They have a slight presence in Brazil, but generally they haven't. So it's diversifying outside of the US, and then it's also diversifying off Amazon. Sometimes some regions have better setups, more localized setups. So if we look at Mercado Libre, which operates in Latin America, in Central and South America, they have absolutely the #1 solution down there. And they have a really good opportunity for international brands to sell there. They're looking for US businesses and European businesses and international businesses from wherever you are to make your products available to buyers in Brazil, Argentina, Mexico, and Chile. And they are opening that up and expanding to more countries, but these are the first 4 which they're starting with. One thing that they've done that has been really good, it is similar to the way that Amazon has created this FBA solution, so you don't necessarily have to worry about shipping international products cross-border or individual products cross-border. You have the ability to leverage Mercado Libre's fulfillment solution. So they have 2 solutions, or 2 locations, I should say, in which you can send your products to within the US. So if you're selling on Mercado Libre, you can fulfill your items by shipping them to Mexico, or I believe a warehouse in New Jersey. And then from there, they will handle everything. They'll handle returns. They'll actually help with getting set up and the customer service in local language. So they really want foreign sellers. So this is an easy way to diversify and really make yourself available to a global community, and not necessarily just Amazon. So just to sum it all up, what are some of the considerations when selling on an international marketplace? Obviously, the #1 or 2 things that you should be focusing on is overseas fulfillment, how your product's going to get to your end consumer. Another one is paying your VAT or your tax obligations. So that's important to understand what are your obligations, how do you need to pay, or how are you going to pay this? Then we would say, translation, localization of your listing. So it's not enough to just Google Translate. If you're selling different products in different regions, even if they're all Spanish-speaking countries, they might call different things slightly differently. And then we talk about some of the payment side of things. So with Payoneer and what we do, you would want to consider, repatriating your earnings. If you're getting paid in British pounds, or if you're getting paid in euros, but you're in the US, how are you going to get your funds back? And I'll touch on that in a second. And then some of the payments out. So if you need to pay your suppliers in China, if you had suppliers in Europe, or if you're overseas and you have suppliers in the US, how are you going to pay them? A, how are you going to pay them? But B, how are you going to pay them most cost effectively? And if you have freelancers or overseas staff. So a lot of marketplace sellers leverage some of the tools and some of the solutions, having a remote staff in Southeast Asia or in Eastern Europe to help with listings or customer support or whatever that may be. And how are you going to help that? Do you need to hire someone else to help manage this new marketplace that you're going to take over? As a business owner, you should reach a point where you don't necessarily want to be doing the nitty gritty anymore. You should be wanting to pass that off and let someone do that and let you focus on the business. Let someone else worry about updating listings and stuff like that. And then the last one is access to capital. This is a very cash dependent business. So how are you going to get that access to capital? Do you need capital to buy more inventory? Do you need capital to set up VAT filings? Or do you need capital to launch in a new marketplace? You don't necessarily want to disrupt the cycle that you have now. So could you use additional capital to buy additional inventory if you had the capabilities, knowing that you'd be able to sell it? So now we'll touch in on how Payoneer can help. So what we've done is really create an all-in-one platform to touch on a lot of those items that are around the circle there to really promote global growth. And the number one thing that we're probably known for are our receiving accounts. So whether you are based in one country and selling in another, what we will do is provide you with a virtual receiving account to enter that into the marketplace to get paid in local currency. Now, you have the opportunity in most marketplaces to be paid back into your home bank account by the marketplace. But when they do, there's typically a hefty exchange rate on that. So if we give the example of a US-based seller listing their products on Amazon UK, you absolutely have the opportunity to put your US dollar account in there. But when Amazon or any marketplace really is going to pay you back in US dollars, they're going to convert those British pounds back to dollars at usually anywhere around 3 to 4% on the conversion. If you use a solution like us, what we do is provide you with a GBP local receiving account. Amazon or any marketplace will pay out those funds in GBP, so there's no charge for you. And then we basically give you freedom of your funds. We allow you to do what you'd like with your funds. If you have outgoing payments, which I'll touch on next, you can do that. Or if you wanted to repatriate them back to your US account or to wherever you're located, you can do that at much more favorable exchange rates, typically anywhere from 1 to 2%, depending on the volumes in which you're moving. And then secondly, we have our in-network payments. So any payment within the Payoneer network is completely for free. So I touched on before paying freelancers. A lot of freelancers in Southeast Asia and Central and Eastern Europe are part of the Payoneer network. Regions in which they don't necessarily want their funds going back to a bank account, or they want to be paid in US dollars because the volatility within their currency might be too much. So a lot of the freelancers that we work with in, say, the Philippines have Payoneer accounts. So for you as a US business or a European business, you can pay directly to them in pounds or in dollars for the services that they're providing for you. It's a completely free transfer for you as long as it's within the Payoneer network. And then we talk about making payments outside of the network. So if you had a supplier, say in China, or if you had a supplier in Europe that you needed to pay and they were not part of the Payoneer network, you'd be absolutely able to do that from the funds that you hold with Payoneer. So say you were able to receive pounds from Amazon UK and you needed to pay a supplier in US dollars, you can go and set up that payment. You'd enter in their bank account details, and then we would send the funds to them. And a part that Andy touched on before was paying your VAT. And it really goes back to giving you more control over your funds. So when you are selling in Europe or in the UK, and holding those European balances, or so those euro balances or British pound balances, you basically want to be able to do what you want with your funds. If you were to just go directly through the marketplace, they would take your British pounds, convert back to dollars, and then you would obviously have an obligation to pay HMRC or any of the VAT tax authorities throughout Europe. So from there, you'd have to send an international wire back to those authorities, or figure out an alternative solution to that, which is just adding costly, timely hurdles to your business and taking away from this, doing the easy stuff. So when you are using Payoneer, you are able to use your balances to pay out to VAT. You can select that you need to pay the UK. You enter in your amount you need to pay and then your VAT number, hit review, and then you'd be able to send it directly from there. With some of the VAT solutions like HMRC, we have a direct integration with them, so we can pay directly to them and make it easier for you. In this case, you're going to save on cross-border payments, you're going to save on time, you're going to save costs, so it's really optimal solution. So this little circle graph is back again, so we're going to talk about a little bit, and we have talked about, a little bit about what Payoneer can do. So we talked about make a payment or paying freelancers, anything within network or free payment, receiving payments from marketplaces or from other businesses in local currency, paying your VAT or any other obligations that you have out of network, managed currencies. So for the example of if you are selling in Europe and the UK and you have a lot of euros because there's 4 European marketplaces on Amazon, but you don't have enough pounds to make your VAT payment in British pounds, within the system, you're able to convert euros into pounds to have enough balance to pay that obligation. And then the two that I haven't touched on yet, the first one is store manager. So a lot of businesses are operating multiple Amazon accounts. So if you have multiple Amazon accounts and you're selling different products in each one, we're able to give you an easy way to manage all of your flows per Amazon's guidelines. So if you're doing things right by them and you have one Amazon store that sells health and fitness equipment and then one that sells home and kitchen, we can absolutely help you with that. And the last one is working capital. And like I said earlier, every business is interested in and needing capital of different degrees. So in 2017, on the back of one of our client surveys, we realized that was a real big need for our sellers. And what did we do? We actually went out and created a working capital solution called Capital Advance. So what it is it's an advance on your future Amazon or Walmart or Wayfair sales. So how it works is you basically connect your Amazon MWS token to Payoneer. You're able to then enter your Payoneer bank account into Amazon or Walmart. And then when the payouts come, basically Payoneer will be able to review the amount of payouts that you're receiving, ensure that you are in good standing with these marketplaces, whether your return rate, your defect rate, customer reviews, etc., to ensure that you are a good seller in good standing. And then from there, we will offer you up to 1 month's, up to 100% of 1 month's volume as an advance. And that's to be paid back over a flexible repayment model. So how it works is we take 35% of each payment from Amazon. Now, that's not 35% as a fee. The fee is typically anywhere from 2.5% to 4%, depending on the amount in which you're taking. But the 35% is the amount that we take back. So if you're getting a payment in from Amazon of $10,000, what we'll do is we'll take 35%, so $3,500 to go back into the repayment of the advance, leaving you still with $6,500 to operate your business. We don't want to have a solution that we're going to advance you money to then take all your money. We don't want you to just plug one hole with another, because that's not really solving a problem. That's just further delaying the problem. So the percentage is really interesting as well, because as we know, there's ebbs and flows in your business and ebbs and flows in selling online. So if you have a slow couple of weeks because of situations like we're going through now, and you're a seller of non-essential categories, your sales might go down if you run out of inventory. So we're only going to take a percentage of the amount that comes in, because we don't want you to be constrained to not be able to run your business. That all being said, what I would say is don't do it alone. And this is almost the end. I know I'm getting close to time. Leverage the other companies that are in the space. Everyone on this slide, but then also there's hundreds of other ones, are experts in what they do. So if you're looking to expand internationally and you're unsure, if you don't know what to do in terms of shipping, or if you don't know about filing VAT or getting set up, or you have questions about ad spends or listings or multi-channel or how your fulfillment would work, ask someone. And myself, that's really what my role is here at Payoneer, is to create this ecosystem so that when sellers have questions, they're able to come to us, and we may not be the one to solve that solution, but I'll absolutely have someone that you can speak to that would be the expert in that region. So some takeaways. Before you go internationally, do your research. So make sure you know what marketplaces are good for you. Know the opportunity size. If they're specialized in a certain category, know what local customers want. And then obviously the next step is pick the right marketplace. Just because you sell in the US doesn't mean that Mexico is a logical place for you. Maybe Canada is, maybe the UK is, and language is something that really helps people pick a marketplace to sell on. But it doesn't always have to be that case. So just make sure you're picking the right one that's best for your items to best succeed and to sell the most. And then probably the most two important ones are to understand your tax and global regulations that you need to abide by. So you don't want to operate illegally. You don't want to be selling for a year and then have the tax man come and say you owe them $30,000. That's not good business, and it's not something you want to do. So from the jump, you want to be able to have your tax and regulations and global regulations in place and know what you need to do so that nothing is a surprise. Nothing's going to stop your business 6 months down the line, a year down the line. And then global fulfillment. So Pearl touched on this, and we absolutely work with First Choice Shipping, and they're great in this, but understanding cost behind fulfillment and whether it's more cost effective to do FBM or FBA, depending on the region in which you sell, understanding the different marketplaces, different global fulfillment solutions, and making sure it's right for you, for your business, whether you sell a heavy product or a light product, a big product or a small, understanding what those total costs will be. And then making sure you have the capabilities to do it. Can you handle it? Do you have enough staff? Do you have enough inventory? Do you have enough capital to take your business to the next level? So if you can tick off all of those boxes 1 to 5, you've done all your research, you have everything you need, you have excess inventory, you have the capital, the staff, the overhead, I would say jump in. So once you know that you have ticked every box, yes, there's going to be curveballs thrown your way, but the opportunity to list on international marketplaces, whether that's on someone you're familiar with, like Amazon throughout Europe or throughout North America, or it's something that you're not as familiar with, like Mercado Libre in Latin America, or Lazada or Linio or Cdiscount in France. There's great opportunity across different marketplaces. So really take advantage of it. I would just advise that everyone take a look at Payoneer. It's usually Payoneer, but that's across LinkedIn, Twitter, not sure that one, Facebook, and YouTube. All of YouTube has a lot of content. Our blog gets a lot of good content from both our internal sources and then some of our partner solutions. So it's really a big way to understand different parts of the ecosystem, different solutions that we provide. And that's about it. So if anyone has any questions, feel free to add them now. And if not, that is my email. That is the best way to get in touch with me. If you have any questions, even if you think it's a stupid question, feel free to send it through.
TJ, that was amazing. Thank you very much.
No worries.
Absolutely amazing. Yeah, please start sending the questions through for anyone that's got any, and I'll be able to forward those on to TJ, see if we can answer some of those. Just touching on a couple of bits you mentioned there, actually some of the stuff that we do in our expansion challenge is actually crucial to help, when people are trying to expand, there's so much information out there, it's hard to know where it is. So if you can find somewhere with the step-by-step guide, you've got your circle with all your different bits on, we've got our expansion challenge, all those sort of things, you really want to make the most of that to be able to expand. So a couple of questions for me. What's the same thing I've asked the others? What's the number one thing you see that people are making the difference on Amazon at the moment? What's the number one thing that they could change today that would make a difference or have an impact?
I think current situation aside, you really need to ensure that your domestic market or your main market in which you're selling is really solid before you consider any sort of international opportunity. Because you're not going to be able to give the international opportunity the focus or the attention that it needs, and then you're going to easily deem it as a failure before you even get off the ground. I used to talk with sellers, selling millions of dollars across in the year, in Amazon US, but then they'd go and try and expand to Canada, and they say, it wasn't really good for me. And granted, you can do, it's at about 15 to 20% of your sales in the US, in Canada that you do in the US. So you're not expected to get a full replication of what you do in the US, but they were expecting that. So make sure your expectations are right too. But B, if you're going to do it right, and do it. And I touched on this, but jump in. So don't just, if you have 50 SKUs in the US, don't just list one SKU and send 10 products to Canada. Like, you're only going to max sell 10 items. So it's obviously not going to be as good. Am I saying replicate your entire inventory in Canada? No, but send a variety of SKUs. Maybe at the time being, fulfill via FBM to Canada, because until you know the market, and that NARF program that I mentioned is a really good way to test the other markets within North America, and see what that looks like.
Fantastic. Okay, fantastic. Has anyone got any questions at all for TJ before we move on? For us, it's amazing working with companies like Pioneer. We've always recommended Pioneer, obviously from a VAT point of view. Lots of our customers use Pioneer. It makes everything really simple. Quite often we get phone calls to say, how do I pay my VAT bill? And I'm like, well, I'm using Pioneer. Like, you just literally click a button. It literally is as simple as that. So there really is no excuse. And for me, I mentioned this earlier in the bit when we was talking about our success pathway, how to expand. But for those that didn't hear, for example, we've got clients that pay us in US dollars. So they pay us into our US Pioneer account. We don't have a US bank account, but through Pioneer, I have a MasterCard. I've got it somewhere. And basically it's a prepaid MasterCard. I come to the States once a month, and it's just all done on that card. I've got no exchange rate to pay. It must save us hundreds of pounds a year. It probably saves us a flight a year.
Yeah.
I would estimate. TJ, you'll know better on the exchange rates than I do and how that saves.
Yeah. Just with all the volatility in the FX markets, especially over the last couple of years, I'd say 5 years from Brexit through U.S. elections and how that has changed things. The volatility in the FX markets is something that nobody can predict. Obviously, just like the stock market, but nobody can really predict. The markets used to be really, really data dependent. So when non-farm payrolls came out, or a certain report came out, the market would react and move one way. If they knew a report was coming out, they would price in, or the market would price in for what the expectation would be. Nowadays, we see the market reacting more to geopolitical situations more than ever. If we talk about, yes, the coronavirus is absolutely affecting things, but when a leader speaks, or when there's a tsunami, or when there's an election, or when there's a Brexit decision, that's definitely things that change and affect the market, and no one really knows. So mitigating that risk is definitely something that we're here to do. We're here to help with. And in the case of the GEE and what you guys use it for, that's absolutely the case too.
Yeah, fantastic. All right, look, TJ, I really appreciate you've given up your very valuable time and supporting us and helping educate the sellers. It's been absolutely amazing. We've heard some.
Thanks, guys. Thanks, Andy.
No worries. Thank you.